The investigation into Christian Horner by Red Bull began this week, and we got the first updates on what to expect going forward. Reports from across the sport have been claiming a crazy range of things about what's going to happen, but despite what some tabloids want you to believe, the Red Bull team boss isn't going to be dragged kicking and screaming from the team this weekend. His future is still very much in the balance though, as are a number of integral figures to the reigning world champions. Today, I'm going to talk about what you should actually expect to happen with the Red Bull investigation, how it's going to affect Red Bull, and what the team could look like going forward. Let's check it out. It's always right to start off this kind of news by cutting through the bull. Christian Horner is under investigation after allegations of inappropriate and controlling behavior emerged last week. Some outlets have been reporting that the inappropriate behavior was of a sexual nature. Others have been saying it's because he is too controlling as a boss. But the truth is that no one can say for certain what the Red Bull organization are investigating. Remember, this is the Red Bull Racing team's parent company doing the investigation, not the team itself. Horner has denied the allegations entirely since they first became public on March 5th, after a report emerged in Dutch newspaper De Telegraaf. He later took the same defensive stance inside a F1 Commission meeting held in London earlier this week, in which team bosses, governing body members, and FIA and commercial rights holders all attended. What does controlling and inappropriate behavior actually mean? Well, there are many different types of behaviors which fall under this conduct, including physical and sexual violence and abuse, violent behavior, emotional or psychological abuse, controlling behaviors, restrictive behaviors, and threatening behaviors. As I said, we don't know which of these Horner is accused of yet, and until we do know, it seems inappropriate to speculate. We do know that on the 9th of February, he was at a meeting in London to speak to investigators about the accusations. Red Bull appointed a specialist solicitor from outside the company to carry out the investigation into Christian, presumably to ensure everything remains legal and no contracts are breached which could result in legal action against Red Bull in the future. On the 9th, Sky Sports reporter Craig Slater gave a really insightful interview on Sky News, which revealed a bit of the mystery behind the investigation. There were plenty of reports that Horner wouldn't survive the day and would find himself jobless just days before the start of the season. Craig said in his interview that the information he had said otherwise. "I've been guided away from expecting an outcome to this investigation today. I think you're right not to call it a hearing, which is what it's been mostly described as. I think this is more of a meeting and an interview by the investigated with Christian Horner, so I'm not expecting an outcome today." The next big date in the Red Bull Racing calendar is the 15th of February, when they reveal their livery for the 2024 season. That is an event that Christian Horner will probably be present at, but it's unlikely to include a free-for-all media questioning and will instead be a curated event. Slater was clear that we shouldn't expect anything by then either. For those thinking that this could be concluded today or possibly in advance of the Red Bull launch, which is the 15th of February next Thursday, well, that isn't a certainty. This is not going to operate, as I understand it, to a Formula 1 timetable. It will operate to a timetable appropriate to get a clear and fair solution for both parties. My guidance is that this could well stretch past the launch of Red Bull's 20th racing car, which is next Thursday. And who knows, might it not even be concluded before pre-season testing begins? Pre-season testing will start on the 23rd of February, with the first race weekend of the season starting 7 days later. How Red Bull manage this situation then will be interesting. If Horner is still in his post when the season starts, then he's going to have a tough time in his media engagements. His and the rest of the team will respond to any questions about the investigation by saying that they won't comment on an ongoing investigation, but that alone will not be enjoyable for him. Horner isn't the type of team principal to sit at home and watch his team race. He'll be at the track and as involved as always. The only way that won't happen is if he is suspended pending the investigation or removed from his post. Right now, though, there's nothing to say that either of those scenarios are imminent. Nonetheless, the outlook is not good for Formula One's longest-standing team boss, with Andrew Benson reporting for the BBC that many insiders have discussed the situation with BBC Sport do not expect him to survive in his role. Reports in Germany and Austria have suggested that there is pressure from higher-ranking Red Bull employees for Horner to step down voluntarily. But according to ESPN, he has no intention of doing so and has continued to work at the team's Milton Keynes office since the allegations first emerged. Running alongside the investigation has been loads of speculation about potential internal conflicts within Red Bull. Tellingly, the majority of these conflicts were not being reported on before the investigation began, which makes them likely to be complete fabrications. I'm talking about fallings out with Max Verstappen, Jos Verstappen and Adrian Newey. The only one that had any kind of coverage prior to this week was a potential conflict between Helmut Marko and Christian Horner. Marko has been a big embarrassment for the team in recent seasons with his outbursts to the media, the worst of which was his racist comments about Sergio Perez last season, in which he claimed that Perez couldn't match the recent Red Bull Drivers' Champions because he was South American. Helmut might be a doctor, but it shouldn't take a genius to know that Mexico is in North America, and some of the sport's best drivers ever have come from South America anyway. It has been claimed that Marko's contract renewal last year saw his wages halved and his role within the team reduced, but no one's been able to say how a vengeful Helmut Marko might have caused this investigation into Horner. However this investigation ends up, it has appeared to destabilize the team. Horner has done an excellent job at turning Red Bull into a winning machine, which last year produced the most dominant season in F1 history, taking victories in 21 of the 22 races among an avalanche of new records. But to suggest he was single-handedly responsible for their success would be to misunderstand Red Bull. The team's main secret is Chief Technical Officer Adrian Newey, to many minds the greatest design engineer F1 has ever seen. He isn't really a secret anymore, to be honest, as most F1 fans now know of him, which speaks to his impact, as it's very rare for an individual member of an engineering team to be widely known. Red Bull have managed to set up a structure around Newey that maximizes his creative talents, while removing from him the areas in which he's either less interested or less skilled. Before that, he was famously bogged down by the complicated matrix management structure imposed on him at his former team McLaren. Whichever team plays host to Adrian has an advantage in F1, and Red Bull would be fools to let him slip through their fingers. But Horner and Newey have worked together throughout the team's history. It was former F1 driver David Coulthard who convinced Horner that Newey was the key to success when he joined Red Bull from McLaren for their debut season 19 years ago. But once Coulthard had convinced Horner of the wisdom of the plan, Horner went all in and built the team around Newey, who was poached from McLaren on an initial salary of $10 million, a huge figure for an F1 engineer. While Horner leaving is unlikely to cause Newey to just up and leave as well, it will encourage other teams to slide into his DMs. Newey has almost joined Ferrari at least twice in the past, and the Scuderia would spare no expense to get their man. When Ferrari were last dominant in F1, back when Schumacher drove for the Scuderia, they had a dream team of engineers and management figures behind the 7-time world champion. With Hamilton now at the team, adding Adrian would be a massive step toward recreating that situation. Current Red Bull technical director Pierre Wash is also being reported as being on his way to Ferrari and would help build the structure that Newey needs to produce his best work. If Horner is removed from his job, losing key members of the team who could have moved up the ladder would be a great loss to Red Bull. While promoting internally can work, it can also destabilize a team as too many people end up in new roles, something Mercedes are discovering after their technical department was gutted by rivals. Red Bull's current sporting director, Jonathan Wheatley, has been tipped as an obvious choice to replace Christian, given his long-term standing with the team and his good rapport with the drivers, mechanics and other team members. Wheatley is also a respected member of the paddock in general, having worked with title-winning teams at Benetton and Renault prior to his move to Milton Keynes in 2005. Other, but less probable candidates could include Gunther Steiner, Mattia Binotto and Otmar Safnauer, all of which were recently let go from their team principal roles at Haas, Ferrari and Alpine respectively. Gunther is the only figure who has previous ties with Red Bull, having acted as the team's technical operations director from 2005 to 2008. But having overseen a period of consistent mediocrity and often underwhelming performance at Haas since 2016, he'd seem a strange choice to now lead the most dominant team in F1's recent history. As for Binotto or Safnauer, both would be very unexciting additions to the team. More likely would be the appointment of the current Red Bull managing director, Oliver Mintzlaff. Having run the football team RB Leipzig in the past, he is more than qualified to manage a large sporting body, in a role similar to the one that Toto holds at Mercedes. If that were to happen, then having someone of Jonathan Wheatley's experience as a right-hand man would be vital, providing Wheatley a promotion in the process. For now, we'll have to wait to hear more on the investigation, but behind the scenes, the Red Bull team could find themselves without a number of key staff members before they know what has happened, and that would definitely knock them off their stride. So tell me, what are your thoughts on this investigation? Will Horner go? And what about Adrian Newey? Let me know in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.